is Wednesday, February 26, 2025, and it is 7 p.m. I will now call the meeting of the Planning Commission to order. Would you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, led by Mr. Mako?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Greenberg.
Here.
Hicks is absent. Mako.
Here.
Pollier.
Here.
Shapaka.
Here.
Suriano.
Here.
Tamarkin is absent.
Are there any additions or corrections to the agenda?
No, ma'am.
Thank you. And now we will move on to the approval of the minutes. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes from February 12th, 2025?
Motion to approve. Shapaka.
And may I have a second, please?
Second, Suriano.
So we have a motion by Mr. Shapaka and a second by Mr. Suriano. Is there any discussion? No? Madam Clerk, can you please call the roll?
Shapaka.
Yes.
Suriano.
Yes.
Mako.
Yes.
Pollier.
Yes.
Greenberg.
Yes.
Motion passes. Next item on our agenda is to swear in applicants and speakers. Mr. City Attorney, Assistant City Attorney, will you please swear in any speakers that are going to be speaking today on any applications?
Yes, I will. We are now at the public hearing portion of the meeting. The public hearing will operate as follows. Administrative staff will make a presentation or comment on the application. The applicant or their representative may then make a presentation or comment on the application. The applicant has 10 minutes to present, and additional time may be requested. Permission is at the discretion of the chair. Public comment will then be open for 3 minutes allowed per speaker. Additional time may be requested. Permission is at the discretion of the chair. Speakers must complete a speaker slip and come to the podium and state their name and address. The applicant will then be given 10 minutes to comment. Additional time may be requested. Permission is at the discretion of the chair. If there is more than one application pending for a particular address, the presentation on each application may be consolidated and presented as one. At this time, will persons wishing to present testimony this evening please rise and raise your right hand to be sworn in? Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you are about to provide will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? If so, state I do. I do. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll now move on to the application portion of our meeting, and we'll begin with the first application of the evening. Madam Clerk, will you please read it into the record?
That is application V-0005-2025 to consider a variance application to vary the Hunters Ridge and Kroger Master Sign Plan for property located at 300 South Hamilton Road, parcel ID 025-001135, current zoning GC, General Commercial, Zach Cohen, applicant.
Thank you. And I'll now turn it over to the administration for a presentation.
This first application is a variance at 300 South Hamilton Road, which is the Kroger site. Here on the map, you can see it's located on the east side of Hamilton Road, just south of Rocky Fork Boulevard. The applicant is requesting approval of a variance for a new, larger wall sign. Kroger is a part of the Hunters Ridge Shopping Center, which has its own master sign plan, and there is a section within that sign plan that refers to regulations for just Kroger. And the primary restriction for the primary Kroger wall sign is that it is limited to a maximum height of 72 inches. There was a sign permit approved for Kroger in October of last year, and it was installed per the approved plans. The approved sign was for 72 inches, and now the applicant is coming forward with a variance application because the sign that was installed is too small. The sign that was there previously before October of 2024 also met the 72-inch requirement. The proposed sign included with this application would replace the existing one and is 125 inches tall and around 235 square feet, which is 53 inches taller than what the master sign plan permits. Something else to note is that the total height of the sign band is 126 inches, so the proposed sign is only 1 inch smaller than the sign band. Something else to note is that the zoning code does limit wall signs to 50 square feet, and while the master sign plan does supersede zoning code requirements, it's worth noting that the sign does greatly exceed the standard zoning code requirements as well, even though the master sign plan is more permissive. Here is another location map that shows the exact location of the sign. Then here are some images. The one in the top left corner is the sign that's currently on Kroger today. This is what was approved through the October sign permit, and it is 72 inches tall. The one in the bottom left-hand corner is the original sign on the building, which did meet the 72-inch requirement. The master sign plan was created with that sign in mind. And then the image on the bottom right is the sign that's included with today's variance application. So in this image, you can see that the sign does go to the extreme limits of the sign band area. So there is just one variance included with this application, and it's for the Hunter's Ridge and Kroger master sign plan, which states that the maximum height for the primary Kroger wall sign is 72 inches. And as mentioned, the proposed sign is 125 inches. This is the variance criteria that must be met in order for the application to be approved. There were some new code changes that went into effect in January of this year, which included 2 new variance criteria. And this application is the first application that was filed with that new criteria in effect. So the 2 that you see at the bottom there that are underlined, that's the new criteria that would apply to this application. So that is whether the variance is substantial and is the minimum necessary to make possible the reasonable use of land or structures. So essentially, is the applicant requesting the smallest necessary variance? And the practical difficulty could be eliminated by some other method, even if the solution is less convenient or more costly to achieve. So with that criteria in mind, staff recommends disapproval of the variance as submitted. The existing sign was installed as approved, and the new sign greatly exceeds master sign plan and standard code requirements. When the applicant initially submitted their sign permit in October, they were proposing a sign at 121 inches and ended up reducing that in order to meet the master sign plan requirements. And due to this sign being larger than what they initially proposed, staff does not believe that the request is the minimum necessary. The sign could also be reworked to move the word marketplace either behind the word Kroger or up to be in line with the lower part of the G and be closer to meeting that 72-inch requirement. However, the applicant has stated that the proposed sign is the new standard Kroger branding. If Planning Commission votes to approve the application, staff recommends adding a condition to reduce the sign height from 125 inches. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We will now open public comment. Would the applicant care to speak? Thank you. Please state your name, address, and relationship to the project.
Hi, my name's Rebecca Green, and I am working with Sign Vision, which is the sign company in this situation.
Address, please.
Oh, and my address is 74 Glen Drive, Worthington, Ohio. Can I go forward? So yesterday I went through this, and there were some changes that Kroger was willing to make regarding the sign, really taking to heart moving the marketplace portion behind the G. And do you have that you can put up for me? Recognizing that the 125 is pretty substantial considering the sign band. So can we see it clearly? Not so clearly. We can't see it so clearly. But if you look at the right and at the bottom, you can see what they've done here is move the marketplace behind the G as was suggested by staff. This is still going to need a variance. It is 96 inches in height instead of 125, which exceeds the 72. And it is all these signs are part of the new branding that is being happening Kroger-wide across the nation using this Fresh Cart logo as part of what they're doing. Kroger's logo does suffer from the fact that it has the K that circles up and the G that circles down, so we have that high ascender and low descender, so it is always a little wonky to try to put on a sign band. But this is the nationwide standard that we are going forward with. Kroger is hoping that we get a little larger than the existing sign in that it is set back quite a lot, this store is set quite a way back from Hamilton Road, and it is a very large storefront. Kroger contains many different kinds of businesses and aspects to its business, in-person shopping, online shopping, which is the Fresh Cart logo, pharmacy, in-person pharmacy, drive-through pharmacy, Starbucks, the Minute Clinic, I believe it's an OHLQ station as well. So because of this multifaceted kind of use, Kroger requires kind of unique branding. I'm happy to take any questions, and I apologize, we did not get this particular drawing until just recently, so this is probably the first time staff has had a chance to look at it too.
Okay. Thank you. I wasn't provided with any speaker slips, and seeing none, if there aren't any, I'm going to go ahead and close public comment. And are there any questions from the commission? I'll start in my left.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The cart and the letters, are they all individual, or is it a box sign?
This is individual channel letters.
Just
And
individual?
Yeah. Base illuminated, white acrylic.
So was there kind of it seems really, really small. I can't believe it's that small on the left in reality.
The one on the left is what was put up last, I think, October. So it is really small for an identifier with a store frontage of, I think it's 450 feet. So it's, it is
So
a
was this
small.
brought up as a need for somebody just driving in the, kind of the inner lane around the out parcels? I mean, who brought this to your attention that this needed to be done?
There were some reports to the store itself that the sign was not sufficient for the entrance, because that is the main public walk-in entrance, and that we should have a better landmark for this particular entrance to this store, and that is the reason for us filing this application for a larger sign. As you can see, like the Kroger, again, this is because of the wonkiness of the word Kroger with the K and the G. When we use the marketplace, we usually put it right under, kind of like what you're seeing there. But the problem, and that's because it keeps our sign area down. If you do that imaginary rectangle around all those letters, it kind of keeps all that compact and down. And so that's what we usually are looking for in a national brand. But because of staff's comments, they were willing to move the marketplace to the right. It kind of messes up the sign area, but in this instance with the sign band, they were willing to do that.
Very good. I have no other questions, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Mako?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a few questions. So you said that the revised plan, the letters are going to be 96 inches, did I hear that correctly?
Right, well, so it's 90, I have to double check. You guys probably can read it as easily as I can, but let me double check. My understanding is that it was 96 inches from the bottom of that G to the top of the K. And I'm going to now check. That is what is on the sign drawing. So from the bottom of the G to the top of that rounded K, that is 96 inches.
Okay. And again, just so I am thinking correctly, so the original ask was going to be for
125.
125, and that was going to be the same dimension between those two letters.
Well, the original ask was more in line with the stacked, kind of, more traditional logo that we see with the marketplace, where the marketplace is underneath the G, which pushes that, that amount to 125. I'm sure that we can probably flip back so you can see what our original ask was. Is that, no, that's what we're proposing. I'm sorry. I've caused a problem by this late
That,
revision.
that's okay. Next question, so irregardless of the size of the letter in this, it's going to be illuminated, is that correct?
This will be a face-lit illuminated sign.
Okay. And I know that this is kind of getting away from the variance ask, but the sign that's out there today, was it illuminated or no?
The one that is currently installed is face-lit illuminated, white acrylic letters, very similar.
Okay. And a quick question for the administration, just so, again, I'm clear. So this is really a variance asked from the master sign plan as opposed to the zoning code. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. No further questions.
Thank you. Mr. Greenberg?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have a couple of questions. So are you okay with if we talk it over and go with an amendment for a 96-inch sign versus what you've asked for, the 125?
Correct. We applied and asked for a variance for the 125, but today we are willing to go with the 96, and that was the purpose of bringing this revised drawing to your attention.
Okay. And I have a question for the administration for me to understand the master sign plan. Can that be amended and made a permanent change so that if a entity that was under that sign plan wanted to have something changed, they could get that change for the whole?
Yes, but they'd have to submit a master sign plan application, an entirely new one to
That would
amend
have to
it.
come back to the city?
Correct, and it would have to be filed by the landlord or property owner.
Okay. I did drive by tonight and think personally that that sign is small, and anything bigger for old people's eyes is helpful. Thank you, Madam Chair.
And Mr. Soriano?
Yes, thanks, Madam Chair. I agree, just from the photos, I'm looking at scale, and the sign is too small as it stands. I think this is obviously like a national brand rebranding campaign is understanding the expense that goes into that. But it seems like that A sender and that D sender on the K and the G are going to probably cause problems if that side branding isn't moved to the side like you all have done. I did some quick math. On the 125-inch sign, 101 inches of that is the actual K and the body of the Kroger sign without the marketplace at the bottom. So I think what we're talking about isn't that much smaller, and I think it's much more legible at the scale of the building. Even looking on Google Earth, looking at the previous sign, it is substantially bigger than what the current size. And actually, I think you can actually see the remnants of the old sign on the existing. You can see the extents of it to the right and left. And it is substantially bigger, if not almost the same height as what's on there. So I would be in favor of or thinking about the potential of moving that marketplace to the side and making the sign a little bit more in scale with the size of the building and the size of that signage band.
Thank you. I just have a question for the administration, and I'm trying to understand. The master sign plan allowed 126 inches, 120,
72.
what was it?
72.
Okay. It allowed 72. And then, is that different at all from the code? Or I guess I'm just trying to understand what the difference is.
So in our zoning code, wall signs are only regulated by square feet. There's no maximum
Oh, okay. That's
width or height unless it's a multi-tenant development or if there's an MSP. So the only requirement in this case is the 72-inch maximum height. There actually is no maximum length or area in the master sign plan for Kroger. So they could go
okay.
technically as long as they wanted, but they're limited to that 72-inch height.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying on that. And then I just have one question for the applicant. Was there ever any kind of a rendering or anything that would try to kind of shrink, not necessarily the dimensions of the K and the G, but maybe like to shrink it a little bit down so that the height could decrease a little bit within the constraints of that K and G? Was that ever?
That is the conundrum of working with Kroger, and we work with Kroger all across the state, is that they're called ascenders and descenders, but that is part of their brand, because they originally, Kroger was using sort of a round, ovally kind of logo, and then they dropped that round, ovally logo, but they kept the funny way they wrote Kroger, which is roundish. And so it is a problem throughout Ohio, is that most cities like yourselves measure area with the imaginary rectangle method, and those pieces make these have very large sign areas. I mean, even though most of our signs are individual channel letters, and there's a lot of brick that's showing as opposed to space that's occupied with sign cabinets or sign channel letters. It's just the nature of how they've designed their logo. It makes for very large sign areas.
Okay.
And it is their national brand throughout, the United States, is to have these very large ascenders and descenders in their logo.
So the minimum necessary, basically, what your attempt on that was to put the marketplace underneath
side.
instead of, okay.
We tried to put it to this main, when we have, of course, Marketplace is a specific sub-brand. And generally, we always put the Marketplace right under the word Kroger because it does reduce our sign area using that imaginary rectangle method. In this instance, though, because there was a suggestion we move it to either the left or right of the G, we did that instead.
Okay. Okay, thank you. I don't have any further questions. Is there any other questions from anyone on the commission? No? Okay. Seeing none, do we have a motion to approve V-0005-2025?
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion. I'll ask Mr. Roth, should I add the amendment?
This would be the right time.
Thank you. So I move that for approval, V-0005-2025, to consider a variance application to vary the Hunter Ridge and Kroger master sign plan, and that should be limited to 96, the sign should be limited to 96 inches with the word Marketplace to the right of the G on the sign.
Is there a second?
Second, Soriano.
Any discussion?
I'm going to be in favor of this variance with the amendments described by Mr. Greenberg in the motion. I think it puts a more appropriate scale to the sign relative to the building, and I don't think it impacts the character negatively. And actually, I think it increases visibility in a way that's positive and not necessarily negative.
Anyone else?
Yes, Madam Chair. So I will also be in favor. As I look at the Kroger brand, and you have the flare with the top of the K and the G, it feels like that they would be penalized to adhere to the 72 inches. It seems like it really wants to breathe. And actually, it's a better looking sign with the Marketplace off to the right. I think that was a good call. It makes it a little bit more dynamic to my eye. The existing sign is there now, and if that meets the code, I read that as a blur. I mean, it's very difficult for me to make out the letters, so I think it's appropriate for the owner of the property to want to be able to brand the business a little bit better. And I think now it does fit the wall a little bit more appropriate than what you originally submitted. So I am in favor. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Mr. Mako?
No comment.
And
No
Mr.
com-
Greenberg? No
no
comment?
comment.
I also don't have any comments. Madam Clerk, can you please call the roll?
Greenberg,
Yes.
Suriano,
Yes.
Mako,
Yes.
Pollyea,
Yes.
Chapaca,
Yes.
and that's it.
Thank you so much. Appreciate your help.
Motion carries. We'll move on in our agenda. This is, oh, Madam Clerk, do you want to go ahead and read this into the record, please?
This application is V-0007-2025 to consider a variance application to amend V-0029-2024 for property located at 1070 Tech Center Drive, parcel ID 025-013634, current zoning IM, Innovation and Manufacturing, Burns and Scala Roofing, Stephen Butzko applicant.
Thank you. I'll now turn it over to the administration for a presentation.
This next application is also a sign variance, this time at the Burns and Scalo site. The applicant is requesting approval of a variance for a new monument sign. In November of last year, Planning Commission approved a variance for 2 wall signs at this site that exceeded zoning code requirements. The south front side was around 91.5 square feet, and the east sign was 30.5 square feet. Planning Commission also added a condition of approval that a new variance application must be filed if the applicant wanted to place a monument sign on this site. The applicant is now requesting 1 monument sign to replace the proposed sign on the east side of the building, which is why this variance application is required. The proposed sign is 78 inches tall, 32.5 square feet, and is 31 feet from the edge of the right-of-way. Here's a site plan of the property. You can see signs 1 and 2 in orange. Those are the 2 that were approved through the previous variance application. Sign 1 is still going to be installed, while sign 2 is no longer a part of the sign package. And then in red shows the location of the monument sign proposed with this application, and you can see the 31-foot setback. Here are elevations of the building for the signs from the former variance application. The one on top with an X through it, that's the one that will no longer be included. And then here is a photo of the proposed monument sign. As mentioned, it's 78 feet tall, 32.5 square feet, and it does meet all zoning code requirements. This is the one requested variance. It is technically an amendment to V-0029-2024 because there was a condition that stated a new variance application is required before a monument sign can be installed, and the applicant now wants to install a monument sign. This is the variance criteria that must be met. This application was filed prior to the code revisions going into effect, so there are 2 less variance criteria than the last application. And then staff recommends approval of the variance as submitted. As mentioned, the monument sign meets all code requirements, and having 1 monument sign and 1 wall sign more closely aligns with the intent of the code than the 2 wall signs that were approved previously. Thank you.
Now open public comment. Would the applicant like to comment? Please state your name, address, and relationship to the project.
Stephen Butzko. I'm with the sign company, Branham Sign Company, 112 West Cumberland Street, Hebron, Ohio, 43025. Just as mentioned, we're looking to try and work an amendment to the last variance case that was before you back in November, I believe, to remove the east wall sign and put in the monument sign and replace in its place. The discussion came once the V condition was set on the variance originally approved. There was some talks on it and internal reviews, and it was determined the monument sign was more appropriate, especially now that the building is altogether, and in fact, the wall sign on the south elevation is up. Burns and Scalo felt that the monument sign was a better option to the east wall sign.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone from the public that would like to comment? Okay, seeing none, I will go ahead and close public comment. Are there any questions from the commission? I'll start with, on my right, with Mr. Greenberg.
No questions.
Mr. Soriano?
No questions.
Mr. Chapaka?
No questions.
Mr. Mako?
No questions.
Okay. I also have no questions. Do we have a motion to approve V-0007-2025?
Madam Chair, I move to approve item V-0007-2025.
Is there a second?
Second, Greenberg.
Okay. We have a motion by Mr. Soriano, seconded by Mr. Greenberg. Any discussion on the motion? Okay. And then, Madam Clerk, can you please call the roll?
Soriano,
Yes.
Greenberg,
Yes.
Mako,
Yes.
Pollyea,
Yes.
Chapaka.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Thank you, appreciate it.
We'll move on to the next item on our agenda. Madam Clerk, can you please read this into the record?
We have 3 applications. V-0006-2025 to consider a variance application to vary section 1155.04B1 site planning of the codified ordinances of the city of Gahanna for property located at 1641 to 1687 Taylor Road, parcel ID 027-000008. Current zoning OCT Office Commerce and Technology, Taylor Industrial Park, Robert Levesque applicant. And DR-0001-2025 to consider a design review application for site plan, landscaping, and building design for 13 acres for property located at 1641 to 1687 Taylor Road, parcel ID 025-000008. Current zoning OCT Office Commerce Technology, Taylor Commercial Park, Robert Levesque applicant. And finally, FDP-0001-2025 to consider a final development plan application for property located at 1641 to 1687 Taylor Road, parcel ID 027-000008. Current zoning OCT Office Commerce and Technology, Taylor Commercial Park, Robert Levesque applicant.
Thank you. I will now turn it over to the administration for a presentation.
This final project includes 3 applications and is located on the southern side of Taylor Road. These applications were filed under the former zoning code, and the zoning district at that time was Office Commerce and Technology. The applicant is requesting approval of a final development plan, design review, and variance applications for a new industrial building. The building is 21,000 square feet and would be located in the front northwest corner of the Taylor Industrial Park site, adjacent to Taylor Road. The proposed building matches the existing development on the site, both in use and in exterior colors. The colors for the exterior materials are tumbleweed and light tan with some stone accents. The project also includes 31 new parking spaces, around 840 square feet of landscaping, and some new parking lot trees. The site was approved for 2 flex industrial buildings, 8 storage buildings, and 1 larger industrial building in 2021, with a total of around 250,000 square feet. So this application is just developing the portion of the site that has no approvals yet. Here's an aerial view of the entire site, which is outlined in red, and that shaded area in the upper left-hand corner, that is the scope of this project. Here is a zoomed-in site plan. In green is the 21,000 square foot building, and blue is the edge of the proposed right-of-way. The setback between the building and the right-of-way is around 40 feet. You can also see the new parking lot to the rear of the building, which is off of the existing access drive, and there's some new sidewalks proposed as well. Here are elevations of the building. The top one is a front elevation that would face Taylor Road. Here you can see the light tan color with the stone accents. The elevation on the bottom is the rear that would face the parking lot, and it is made up of tan metal panels. Then there is one variance included with this application. It is to Chapter 1155.04B1, which requires a front setback of 75 feet for all warehouse, manufacturing, and industrial uses, and the proposed building is only set back 40 feet. So the variance, design review, and final development plan criteria are all from the former code. So here I'm only going to go over some 3 criteria that I think are applicable to this project. It's compatibility with existing structures, plan meets applicable development standards, and it's consistent with land use character and development of the area. So staff recommends approval of all 3 applications. As mentioned, the site is already mostly developed, and the proposed building matches the existing buildings in both use and appearance. And then the variance actually would not be required under the current zoning code. The new setback for all sites zoned innovation and manufacturing is only 20 feet instead of the 75 feet that was required under the old code. The applicant also states that there is a stream to the rear of the building, which is why everything had to be shifted forward towards Taylor Road. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll now open public comment. Would the applicant care to comment?
Robert Levesque, 625 Eastgate Parkway, Gahanna.
What's your relationship to the project?
Owner.
Okay.
So as regard to the variance here, the 40 feet, typically when I build this style of building, we'll have the automobile parking in the front and the loading and unloading of the warehouse basically in the rear. And given the fact we have some constraints between the creek and Taylor Road itself, there really just isn't room to, number one, have the parking in the front with the loading in the rear. So we've combined that basically in this footprint here. And quite frankly, I think it looks better not having the parking in the front as it faces Taylor Road. But again, that is the reason for the 40-foot variance as well. So the other reason being is that particular style of building, flex warehouse, needs to be a certain depth to make sense for tenants to move in. So you just can't have it, too shallow, basically, for it to work economically. But other than that, I'm here to answer any questions.
Okay. Are there any questions from the commission? I'll start with Mr. Greenberg.
Need to close the hearing first.
You are correct. I'm now going to close public comment, and then I will take questions from the commission. I will start with Mr. Greenberg. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Question for the administration on sidewalks. Is there a requirement here for sidewalks on Taylor Road?
Engineering is the department that requires sidewalks in the right-of-way. The extent of the zoning code is I think we have a minimum width for sidewalks, and we require sidewalks from the parking lot to the entrances of the building, which is included in this plan. But we don't have any requirements for sidewalks in the right-of-way along the road.
Thank you. No further questions.
If I could comment, Mr. Greenberg, there's a multi-use path that I put in originally along Taylor Road. So that is currently there.
Okay, great.
Mr. Soriano?
No questions for me. Thank you.
Mr. Chappaka?
Yes, Madam Chair. Do you have a tenant for the building?
Not currently.
Do your tenants in this complex, I mean, is there a lot of visitors to any of the buildings in the complex?
As far as customers
Yeah.
to the, not particularly. Most of these businesses operate, their employees come during the day and either leave in company vehicles and come back later that day, or just operate typically 8 to 5.
So do they use the parking for overnight parking for trucks and whatnot? Is that something that's allowed?
Yeah, a couple of them do, yes.
Was the access road there to the east, is that existing?
Yes.
It is existing? So that was part of the master plan, it's in play, we're just tying into that. Do you have the landscaping plan, or is there a more final development plan? Maddie, do you have?
Yes, there was a landscape plan submitted. I don't have it in the PowerPoint, but I believe it was a part of the online packet.
Thank you. No more questions, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Mr. Mako?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a couple questions. Correct to assume this is just going to be initially flex warehouse space, so it's essentially just going to be building shell, and then you'll do tenant finishes as you get clients?
That is correct, yes.
Okay. And is that typical of the other businesses here in this particular park?
Yes, actually, every one that I've built has been on speculation,
Okay.
and they're all full.
Okay. Again, that's what my assumption was. I just want to make sure. And then detention, stormwater detention, looks like it's going to be there to the west side. Take it everything has been adequately sized and piped for detention?
Correct, yes. Yeah, everything actually north of the stream is currently running to that detention basin. So it is existing as well.
Okay. Okay. No further questions?
And I just have one question. What kinds of tenants will be occupying the space?
That's hard to say at this point, but I can tell you our current tenants are Xperi Green is a lawn care treatment service. We have a Taekwondo studio. Pertec is a tenant that recently outgrew a space of mine on Eastgate Parkway and has moved into a larger space there actually in the first building there on Taylor Road. Let's see, we have a food packaging company in the second building, along with a last mile delivery type repackaging company. I'm not sure exactly what they do in there, but I know that they bring in pallets of goods and repackage them to redistribute.
Thank you. Are there any further questions from anyone? No? Okay. So do we have a motion? Well, I guess we'll start with the variance application. Do we have a motion to approve V-0006-2025?
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve item V-0006-2025.
Can I have a second, please?
Second, Chewbacca.
Okay. We have a motion by Mr. Mako, seconded by Mr. Chewbacca. Any discussion on the motion? Okay, seeing none. Madam Clerk, can you please call the roll?
Mako?
Yes.
Chapaca?
Yes.
Pollyea?
Yes.
Suriano?
Yes.
Greenberg?
Yes.
Okay, motion passes. Do we have a motion to approve DR-0001-2025?
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve item DR-0001-2025.
Is there a second?
Second, Chewbacca.
Okay, so we have a motion by Mr. Mako, seconded by Mr. Chewbacca. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none. Madam Clerk, can you please call the roll?
Mako?
Yes.
Chapaca?
Yes.
Suriano?
Yes.
Pollyea?
Yes.
Greenberg?
Yes.
Okay, motion passes. And finally, do we have a motion to approve FDP-0001-2025?
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve item FDP-0001-2025.
And is there a second?
Second, Chewbacca.
We have a motion by Mr. Mako, seconded by Mr. Chewbacca. Any discussion on this motion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Mako?
Yes.
Chapaca?
Yes.
Pollyea?
Yes.
Greenberg?
Yes.
Suriano?
Yes.
Okay, motion passes.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks for investing.
All right, moving on in our agenda, is there any unfinished business?
No, ma'am.
No? And any new business? We'll move on to official reports. Mr. Assistant City Attorney,
Nothing to report at this time, Madam Chair.
thank you. And Director of Planning?
Thank you, Madam Chair. A few items. One, the request that we just heard, I believe that is our final application under the old zoning code and under the old application requirements there. I think that closes out all the old applications. Secondly, I'll say that we just had our first development plan of the year submitted. It's on the site just adjacent to Burns and Scalo that we looked at. That'll be another warehouse building coming through here. Administratively, we have about half dozen administratively approvable minor development plans. I think half of those are literally on Agla Road, all on the east side. Very minor improvements. I think one location's adding a garage, one is adding like some sporting equipment or things of that nature. So they're kind of languishing in the review process as we speak. Would also add that here in the last few months, Maddie and I, we've been getting on our planning team, we've been getting a number of reach outs. A lot of people kind of inquiring about looking into properties and just a lot more people, you know, kicking the tires of the car, so to speak, interested, which is encouraging. And also it's encouraging because it's in, I would say, a wider swath of area within the city, and for the first time we're starting to hear different types of uses instead of just being multifamily, you know, industrial or self-storage facilities or automotive related. People are start talking a little bit about retail and office a little bit. So things are encouraging. I would anticipate a few of those conversations to lead to applications that we'll see later on this year. And with that, I would conclude my comments. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much. And we'll move on to council liaison, which is myself, and I have a few comments from recent council meetings. From the February 17th meeting, they discussed it's called the Sustainability 2050 Initiative. Not sure if anybody's seen that online or heard about it. I thought it was pretty interesting. It's a voluntary certification program to help local governments achieve sustainability goals, which relates to the regional sustainability agenda. So basically, the city can earn certification points by implementing sustainable policies and practices that align with the regional sustainability agenda. And there's a bunch more information online. I think if you Google Gahanna Sustainable 2050 Initiative, there's a ton of information online about it. So if anybody's interested, you can get online and read more about it. And then this past Monday evening, with the Committee of the Whole, on the 24th, there was a conversation regarding increasing salaries of elected officials, certain elected officials, which would be the city attorney's position, the mayor, and council members. And Marissa Bowers, the council president, made a presentation that was incredibly well-researched and very detailed. If anybody's interested, you can get online on the city's YouTube channel and watch it, and essentially made arguments to increase the salaries of those certain elected officials. Apparently, since the last time council raised its salary was 1999, from $600 a month to $800 a month. With the city attorney's salary, the last time that was raised was in 2023. They're looking to increase it again just due to the fact that it's a full-time position. Same with the mayor. That salary was last increased in 2012, but basically it wasn't really increased, it was just maintained but from the 2006 salary. Again, a full-time position as well. So essentially what council decided was that they were going to come back in 2 weeks to the Committee of the Whole for further discussion. And if they do vote this into effect, it would go into effect in 2026. And a couple people spoke in opposition, which Councilman Renner and the mayor spoke in opposition to these proposed salary increases. Again, if you're interested, you can go online to the city's YouTube channel and watch the entire conversation. And that's all I have for the council liaisons report. And I don't see the mayor here present tonight, so we will skip that official report. As the chair this evening, the interim chair, I don't have anything to report. So we'll move on to correspondence and actions. Do we have anything? No? Finally, we will poll everybody for comment. I'll start with you on my left, Mr. Shapaka. Do you have any comments this evening?
Good job tonight.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Mr. Mako?
Again, good job tonight. Well done.
Thank you. Mr. Greenberg?
Be an echo here. Yep, great
I
job.
appreciate
First,
that.
first meeting running. That's great. You did a great job.
Thank you. Mr. Soriano?
No comments, but great job.
Thank you. And I appreciate that. I am the chair of the Property Appeals Board. However, that board meets incredibly infrequently. This board meets a lot more frequently, so I appreciate the accolades, and hopefully next time I'll be a little bit more polished, but appreciate the opportunity. And with that, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Thank you.